Yes. The EMOTIONA Podcast is back. I think this is episode 07. Welcome to the EMOTIONA Podcast 07. Looking forward to these. This is fun, even though I've got to set some stuff up on the laptop. Got to make sure the settings are right with the sounds and everything. But now we're here. Now the door has been opened. Your headphones are in, or maybe they're your speakers, and my microphone's on, and now we get to connect. We have this moment yet again to check in. Pretty excited here. Episode 07. What do we have in store for this episode here? Well, it looks like, of course, we're going to talk about the latest song, Walked on the Moon. We walked on it. We're going to talk about it. Maybe talk a little bit about the album art, like how the album art came together. One of the biggest things I'm really excited about to talk about and just to do in general is the first EMOTIONA live performance /show /concert. Very exciting. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about music that I'm listening to. What's that one song that I'm super hyped on, you know? And maybe a quote of the day if we're feeling crazy, you know? And then we're just in the moment and we're just feeling it out. Springtime has been crazy. It's kind of like the perfect spring, as far as weather and stuff. I'm not sure how it's been for you, but it's just been so nice. I know last month we talked about the windows that were open, but they've stayed open. I think we're going into May, and it's just stayed so nice. I'm very excited about that. / thankful for just the really nice weather. It feels so good, you know. But first on the list, let's talk about it. Walked on the moon. We did walk on the moon. We went there. We got into our space shuttle. With a rocket on our back, ignited and launched into the atmosphere, blasting through all the layers, even the ozone layer. But remember the ozone layer? The old ozone layer. It's always protecting us. And I'm so glad that it protects us through, from the sun and the harmful rays. It bounces us out. But we had to push through every barrier, every layer, and we kept going because we were on a mission. And it was really a mission of the imagination, right? So this one especially, coming from sandcastles, which we talked about last time, I kind of wanted to just go with something a little lighter. Not that sandcastles was heavy, but I mean, in some type of way, it kind of was, in a real way. So this song for me was almost like a little just adventure in La La Land, like a little imagination moment. And I just wanted to, really I was on the piano / the keyboard here, Virus synthesizer, but it was like a piano sound. And then I was starting with some chords, and I was just playing something that felt good. I was like, man, I just want to feel good, you know? And it wasn't for any particular reason. It was kind of I'm writing this because I want to in the moment, and it's not necessarily about this hard-hitting life reality or this real big thing that I'm documenting or I'm sourcing information about from my real life. It was really just I'm playing things that sound good and feel good, and they're honestly, and it turned out these kind of soft and fluffy. It's this is just a really nice feel-good song, you know. For better or worse, I think for better, at the end of the day, I still listen to it, and I was super happy about the production. I like the way the whole space theme, it turned out really cool. And I was just imagining myself in this experience, so I'm in this spaceship, and I was well, what's around me, and what kind of tools and instruments and things are around me, and what's the moon like, and why am I there? And why do I want to stay there? And what am I looking for? You know what I mean? And I just kept inserting things that I liked. I was well, I want this. I want to kind of feel this type of way. And it was all this kind of very anti-gravity and very fluffy in the moon sand. It was a moon sand song, right? So Sandcastles was an earthly sand song. This was a lunar sand. And I love space. I love the moon, just the idea of it, the concepts and everything. And it's just cool to hang out up there and talk about it, and for sure, this one wasn't like the most intense. Like it wasn't like, and all these songs like on the podcast, if you've listened to them, I feel like I kind of go back and forth. Like I wanted to take things light and easy and feel good, but then when I do that, the reaction is like, man, I want to write something edgier or more real, And then I go back, well, like that was pretty real, and like it's been cool to not censor myself and just kind of put it out there, right? So looking back on this song, it's that exact same thing. I want the next stuff to be like edgier and more intense and have more sort of juice and like realness behind it. But like, yeah, I mean, also like just give yourself space. Literally, right? Space. It's cool to give yourself space to relax and like, I'm gonna chill for this one, So that's kind of like my thoughts on the song. But I hope you like it. I hope you've been listening to it and stuff. I mean, it's okay if you haven't, man. Whatever's good, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's cool releasing these songs. I mean, at this point, there's been a lot of back-to-back as far as EMOTIONA releases. Like every month there's been like a song. Another cool part about releasing a song is like the album art, right? And I mean, like the song, like when the lights come back, we did that music video, and every song you have this kind of opportunity to sort of, not only do you have the song itself and like the story within the music that you're telling, but you have like more of an opportunity through art, through video, through photos, through anything. And I would love to do a music video every time. I can if I just kind of make myself do it. But like on this one, it was kind of like this cool thing to where I didn't give myself a lot of time, or I didn't force myself to make a video. So it was kind of like I started off with this Photoshop idea. I was like, man, it'd be really cool if I had a picture of myself that was like really high definition, like a really high quality photo of me in like a space suit, like space, like a real astronaut. And I imagine like some Apollo 13 or some famous like Hollywood movies that I might grab like a screenshot from, or I could use like like turn into like an After Effects thing and like put me in it. Because I thought about it first, I was like, oh, I could go on Amazon or the internet and try to find some space suit. And I've had friends that do that. Shout out Starset. Shout out. I've had other buddies in space suits. Got a lot of space friends. Do you have any space friends? If so, what are they like? But so I ended up finding this photo, this cool astronaut space lady. And I was like, hey, that's a high quality photo. You look cool. And I was like, maybe that's the one. So I ended up starting out with just the photo. I was like, well, let's just focus on this photo and see if we can get it. Because every song I kind of like doing like a promo photo as like a release to kind of get just attention going for the release and say, hey, like there's a new song coming. I've got a new photo. And it kind of helps tell the story too. Kind of preps you up for what's about to happen, whenever the song comes out. So end up getting this space photo, and I was like, all right, well, let's see if I can put myself inside of it, right? And it's kind of like, that's just Photoshop, 101, or well, maybe advanced Photoshop, I guess, depending on where you're at. Like everyone, I know so many people use Adobe like Photoshop stuff, and like there's so many levels of like mastery, quote unquote, and I'm definitely not a Photoshop master, but I definitely have done it for a really long time. I remember doing it back in high school. I mean, that was the first thing I remember I was in an art class and I tried Photoshop for the first time, and I was like, dude, this is it. This is awesome. And yeah, ever since then, I would just have it on my computer and play around with it. That's been years and years. So I kind of had confidence. I was like, well, let's swing the bat and let's go for it. And if this Photoshop thing turns out well, then cool. And if not, that's fine. But I ended up, I had this source image of the astronaut. And I was like, all right, well, I need to get the lighting correct. I need my lighting to match that lighting. So I ended up taking like this ring light that I normally use for like video stuff, and then I ended up putting like around my neck, so there's like this uplighting coming from my face, because when you looked at the source picture, like the space lady, you can see her, like the mask is like lit up. I was like, all right, well, we need to replicate that lighting so that it's convincing. Like the more, I mean, I feel like that's how it works. You really have to sell the lighting for the special effect, quote unquote, to work, right? So got the ring light around my neck, and then I had my cell phone light like flashing onto my face by these two light sources. I'm in the, like just like whatever studio apartment right here. It's just me hanging out as usual. Little art project moment, but snapped a photo. Had a couple of them, and I took one that looked the closest I thought, and then just kind of went to town on Photoshop. Kind of like took out my face. I changed the color correction, so I desaturated everything. Tried to go for that emotion, a kind of desaturated color, like LUT, whatever look. And yeah, so long story short, I kind of stitched myself into the astronaut, and that was step one. So I had the still image, the photo, right? But I was like, well, let's keep going. So then, if that was Photoshop, then there's After Effects, which is like this special effect video program, which is incredibly powerful. And I've had that on my computer for a really long time too. I did with the I Exist music video. That was my first big jump into trying to do special effects, which I'm not even sure why I would try to do that. I remember I was like, this is back when I Exist was like 2012 or something like that. We wanted like a really big music video. We were super inspired by like 30 Seconds to Mars videos, and they were like half movie, half rock video, and you wanted to like nail this inspiring piece of work, quote unquote, and so I downloaded After Effects and went all the way down the rabbit hole there and learned a bunch of stuff. And there's still a lot, that's another thing that you can just keep going and keep learning. But I took all of that kind of background and I was like, well, let's take this astronaut photo that we just made and now let's like put it in space. And by putting it in space, I mean like After Effects, you can like make it move. So I kind of cut out my face. I found some random image of like a spaceship thing and like the moon, and you just kind of put them in layers, and I just layer them all up, and then if you just add some camera movement and some like parallax type stuff, you sell the feeling of like it's like a movie, even though it was just like 4 photos placed on top of each other and like animating. It looks sort of like a movie. And I kind of ended up using that for social media, but then also just like the Spotify video. So it wasn't a music video, but there's this like 10-second loop on Spotify that kind of looks like a music video, and it's interesting. I'm happy with it. I'm not sure. Maybe it's cringy. Maybe I'm not sure how it looks to everybody else, but that's fun for me to make. I enjoyed doing that, and there's a bunch of stuff that I want to do though. Like I had a kind of a maybe a breakthrough of some kind. I love mapping out like what's next for the EMOTIONA project, right? So like I wrote this down the other day, like EMOTIONA 1.0 was the YouTube videos, which I don't know if you've seen, but it was the first 3 songs I did, the Nirvana, Odessa, and Florence and the Machine. I did these like 20-minute production videos that kind of showed really in depth. So if you just YouTube search EMOTIONA, the EMOTIONA project, like Odessa. It's just on my YouTube page, so check out the YouTube page if you're feeling it. But that was like 1.0. So I started out, had the name, had sort of like the look of it, or the aesthetic, if you will. I was like, all right, that's a cool space to start. And then had the songs out and the videos, and then I was like, all right, well, EMOTIONA 2.0, and that was like this. Well, it was like New Year's. It was goodbye to the year. That was like, okay, 2.0 is original music, right? And that was just it. It's like, it's not, because I didn't want to be like a cover artist anymore or whatever. It was fun. It was a fun start, but 2.0 was like, okay, original music, kind of shifting into more of like what are other artists that I admire doing out there, and kind of just being like, okay, I'm like real artist, you know what I mean? And then the tail end of 2.0 here, and that's where we're at right now, is like, we have like a handful of original songs now. Excited about production. The production's going to keep getting better, hopefully. Well, it will if you just keep working at it. But it's like the live set, and that's where we're going off next. And the podcast here, the first EMOTIONA live performance. Ding, 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 ding. Wow. And it's a big deal, like, because for me, that's all I want to do. And it just makes me so happy to perform. And I'm not sure what that sounds like to everybody else, but it's like, it makes me so excited to think about. And when I'm doing it, I feel like I'm really at like my maximum energy as far as like sharing energy with people around me, right, in the world and stuff. So it's cool. It's really cool to write music, and it's been really cool to produce in the studio. It's been years and years and years, like, especially with the I Exist stuff. It was like 2015. We went down this rabbit hole of learning how to produce electronic music. I'm sure I've touched on it before. We did this 3D app, learning how to program, and so it's been like 5 years, almost 6 years, but like 5.5 years of just like in the studio, and like it's been like in like the cocoon, in the works, like getting ready, working on the thing that you want to share with everybody. You know what I mean? It's taken so much patience, you know? Like, unbelievable. It took so much time. But now it's like, at the beginning, like I said last podcast, I was like, I don't know when this year, but it's going to happen. That's my goal. Let's do the live show. And then it was like, my birthday's in June. So I was like, well, let's do it by June. And it just so happened, our buddy Matt Ramsey, the promoter for the Mousetrap, hits I Exist up, Cameron and I, and he's like, hey, we need an I Exist show. Because my buddy Cameron's moving to California. And he's like, before we move to California, we need an I Exist show. And I was like, let's do it. I'm all about it. And Cameron's like, yeah, for sure, because we're the same way. All we want to do is rock out. So we said yes to the show, and then it kind of worked out in this really, really crazy way to where I was like, this is the debut EMOTIONA performance too. You know what I mean? So I'm doing like double duty. I'm playing for 30 minutes before the I Exist set. So it'll be like an hour long playing with I Exist, and 30 minutes before that. So an hour and a half after not performing, and it's been like 3 years, and then 2 years before that. So it's gonna be it's a lot, but I mean, I feel ready. I feel prepared. Almost. A lot's been going into it, so I'm like getting all the gear together. I've got my kind of setup as far as like what kind of keyboard, what kind of controller, because so many of the artists I'm going to be playing with, like from this point, are going to be like DJs and all my like electronic friends. You know what I mean? So there's just so much thought I've put into like, well, what does that mean as a performing artist? You know, because I'm going to be doing live vocals. I'm going to be playing the piano like live. I'm going to be playing the cello live. How can I bring all this stuff together in a way that's not like overly? You don't want to be the person with all this gear and you get in everybody's way, especially like in this DJ world where everyone's like, so all they have is their USB drive and they just put it in and they mix. And then they'd walk off stage and then they high five and like, that's good. I can't bring all this gear into that space. You know, I can only bring like a select amount of gear, and I've just been super intentional and sort of thoughtful about what's the most bang for my buck that I can get as far as space wise. So I got a little adrenaline rush, which I've been getting adrenaline rushes all the time thinking about this show. But the adrenaline rush I just got now is because it's like, well, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm ready to perform, I'm ready to perform on any stage. You know what I mean? And I think, like we talked about all that work and time, it's just like, I wanted, when I was ready, to be ready for like the real thing, like the biggest stages ever. Not that it's like it has to be that way. Not that it has to be some massive festival or has to be some, I get these arena dreams. It's not that. It's just that I'm ready. You know, if opportunities come up, you know, or if that's what I'm supposed to do, then I'm ready for it. Like I like this place with my goal setting where I'm just like, I want to perform, and then if it's this venue in Indianapolis with 100 people or however many, like that's I'm gonna be so excited. Like I get adrenaline rushes all the time thinking about it. But it's like, but I'm ready, you know, for anything, you know, and a big part of that is just having this flight bag. So that's what I was getting at was I've got this flight case, because I always hear like stories about DJs flying around, from Miami to New York to, Europe to Australia, and they'll do that in like a weekend, to Vegas. And I'm like, well, I've got my little flight bag. I've got all my gear, but it's all like this miniaturized stuff to where I can still be as mobile and as versatile as them, So I've just been thinking about it. I've been thinking about so much stuff, and I guess if I'm being honest, like I've been thinking about this for like 20 years. You know what I mean? So I'm just to have this show in Indianapolis is everything. Like it's all that matters. I just want to be in a place where I can have that outlet of energy, and whatever's after that is thumbs up. It's all good, But I'm ready, so that's really, really exciting. I've been working on like edits for the song, so like you've got the songs on Spotify, the ones that you've heard, and if you played them back to back to back to back like a radio song, that's good, but it doesn't really necessarily make for a good like EDM set, because EDM being like electronic dance music, people want to dance, right, and move. Even if they're not dancing, there's this feeling of like you're on this wave, or you're in this like state that the artist is taking you on, And if you stop in between songs, like we would like back in the rock band days, like if you stop like after you're done playing, like even though you're gonna play a few songs next, if there's this moment of like stoppage, a part of your brain kind of goes out of it. It's like this flow state, and that's another thing I've been thinking about forever. The DJs, we'll talk about like mixing songs, and they'll plan their sets, and they're really great at blending songs together. That's what DJs do. And I've never been a DJ up until this point. I'm learning some DJ stuff now, because it's like that's what this is about. It's like, they cultivate music, they bring pieces of music together. That's going to be super dope. Like that's one of their things that they do, is they know what's going to be good for the space or the event or that moment in time for everybody, But then also they blend together music. They blend the music together. So I've been like producing music for 5 years straight, and I've been thinking on the songs. I've been working on the singles and kind of a little bit of the album, but it's totally different than a live set and blending songs together for a live set, right? So I've been making these edits, these like VIP edits that you'll only hear live. And a big part of that is finding this dynamic range and this dynamic like ups and downs, and how are the songs going to flow together, and because you want to play your songs. I don't want to like necessarily DJ a bunch of other people's songs. I'm down to do that if it's what's good for the time, But I'm just like, well, how can I make the songs that I've already have? How can I make them just hit hard live, and how do I make them blend together? So I won't keep talking about that, but that's a whole thing that I've just thought about so much, and it's not going to be perfect. I'm sure this first show is not going to be perfect, but it is. They're all going to blend together, and I know I've got a lot to learn, and I'll hopefully just keep getting better at the live set. But I'll definitely be singing and going off and like flipping out on stage, and that'll be a thing and whatever. So I can't wait. VIP edits and song flow. That's the show. So I'm just kind of talking. Is that cool if I keep talking? We're on the podcast. We're in podcast mode. Music that I've been listening to. What's a song? Has there been like a song or an artist? And I looked through my Spotify history, because Spotify has that new recently played feature. And I'm like, all right, well, what have I been listening to? Turns out I have been listening to a song that I was really blown away by, and it was Nurko Blind Spot. He did Nurko Blind Spot Part 1 and Part 2. And let's see to be honest, real quick, shout out Nurko. The Blind Spot Part 2 for me is like a melodic bass masterpiece. Keep doing that. You're killing it. Love you a lot, buddy. Real talk. Nurko Blind Spot. He did like Part 1 and Part 2. And here's the thing. I think he did. This is me just guessing. I haven't heard any stories or anything. But I think he's got his formula down. He's got his he knows his sound, how he does his drops and his template, and how, he did that with every song. He'd have every song sound the same if he wanted to. I think maybe he wanted to try something new, to try a different type of drop, to try a different type of feel. and that was different from his normal sound. But then he also has this just like money, incredible classic Nurko like drop. And then I think he did both. He did part one, I'm just guessing, part one, Blind Spot from Nurko. I think it was him expanding and trying to make it just something a little different, like something that he was just vibing with and making, felt cool about, because it's the same vocal, it's the same lyrics, the vocals didn't change, which I kind of wish they would. I think that would have been really cool, but I see what he did. He really just wanted to try two different sounds. So Blind Spot Part 2 for me is like Nurko, like classic Nurko, and it's just like I got goosebumps just thinking about it. Unbelievable for the genre. I know there's a lot of people like make fun of like melodic bass, future bass, emotional, whatever. For me, like this is like Nurko's like the pinnacle right now of melodic bass, at least that song. And he just did a song with Illenium, like just released at the time of this recording, called Sideways. He did a song with Illenium called Sideways, and that sounds really good too. Here's the thing, Illenium's massive, one of my favorite artists. Nurko is so hot, he's so in the zone. I think, here's me, I'm just guessing again. Illenium had the vocal, because it's a really good vocal. It reminds me of Sia. It's got Sia vibes. I'm like, well, for me, she's like kind of like pop masterclass, incredible songwriter. So this vocalist who I hadn't heard of / songwriter, I think Illenium got the vocals, added guitar. I think Illenium just had the vocals and guitar, and I bet he just gave it to Nurko, and he was like, Nurko, dude, you're killing it. I bet Illenium just hit him up. He's like, hey, dude, you want, or maybe it's like a management thing, but it was like this, they're just so similar, and Illenium was helping him out. Illenium being like the larger artist, he's like, dude, I want to, we should collab. I want to help you out. And I feel like Nurko just took it from there. So like it sounds like a Nurko drop on both drops. But they're so similar. I'm not sure, how many other people would hear that, but because there's two really awesome melodic bass producers. But yeah, Sideways from Nurko, Illenium. Check that one out. Quote of the day. We're wrapping things up with a quote of the day. And I looked at my phone. I don't have any quotes written down, but I do kind of a thought that kind of hit me the other day. And I talked about 2015 again, and how like that was like the beginning of the beginning of some type of journey for me, and like testing myself and like learning a bunch of new things and trying to figure out what is possible. What can you actually create if you just focus like 100%? If you give something your everything, your all, what can you learn? Anything? Can you make anything? Is anything possible? And I know that sounds really bold and crazy, right? But that's where my head was back then, and I'm still feeling that, to this day. But I also failed a lot, right? I failed a lot. I don't want you to think that it's in a hard way. It never felt like one huge hard fail, but it didn't. Up to this point, there hasn't been this massive payoff, or like it wasn't this amazing thing. Like it was the lessons still to be learned in my head, right? And there were so many lessons, and there's so many things that I've sort of been, biting off and trying to figure out. But a big takeaway for me recently is I've been re-listening to a bunch of those audiobooks that I was listening to then. And I'm just sort of analyzing, where was my head then? What was the information like? And how do I see it differently now with all this experience, right? And the one book I'm reading is The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Insane, just over the top. A lot of people think he's obnoxious and crazy, and he totally is, and kind of a wild dude. But it's this idea of this maximizing anything's possible. Just 10x your capability, 10x the work you're doing. All it takes is 10x. He's like hyping you up. And since then, I've learned for sure it takes that 10x perspective and that juice. But it also takes the right strategy, right? And Tony Robbins said that, and the right strategy is something totally different. You can try something the wrong way for 10 years, and you'll never get there. If you keep trying something the wrong way, you're not going to get it. But something Tony always will say a lot is, you get the right strategy, it'll save you 10 years. What you could do in 10 years, you do in 1, because you have guidance from, usually it's guidance. I mean, for me now, it's experience, because I didn't really have anybody to tell me what to do then. I was kind of on my own in a good way. I was like challenging myself, But you can have, mentors and teachers and people to help you. And that's, for me, it's been about audiobooks and obviously my family and my friends. And I've had so many amazing people in my life, But yeah, so all that being said, I wrote on a piece of paper. I got this piece of paper and took just a Sharpie marker. And I was like, if that chapter of my life was round 1, I said, this is round 2. I just wrote round 2. And I put it on my wall, And I grew up like a big Mortal Kombat, video game kind of kid or whatever. Like round 2, maybe round 1 you lost. But guess what? Round 2, fight. Round 2 just started. Say that to yourself if you're feeling it. If you're feeling this right now, like round 2 just started. Like this is the next chapter. This is the next part of your movie. You know what I mean? And you have like all that stuff that I learned from round 1, even though it wasn't like this massive win. It definitely wasn't a flawless victory, right? Did watch the new Mortal Kombat movie with some buddies. That was great. Good time. Recommended Mortal Kombat movie. But round 2 is here, and I'm just keep giving myself like kind of reality checks. It's just like just gratitude, thankfulness, if that's a word. Just that I'm not dead. That I survived. To be alive, I'm just grateful, right? And it's not perfect. Like nothing's ever perfect. I'm just a la la land, But Walked on the Moon has moments of just kind of like, it's okay to be just soft and feel good, and it's okay if if they do go well, But that's it. Thanks for coming with me on this moon mission here. See that full circle? You see that full circle there? It's happening. The EMOTIONA Podcast, rocking and rolling. If you're in Indianapolis, I can't wait to see you at the live show. It's going to be really exciting. And again, like I said, I've got the flight case ready. I'm sure we'll talk about that more next time. But once the live show's here, I'm going to obviously keep making music, and I've got tons of music I can't wait to talk about with some incredibly talented artists. It hit me the other day. I'm collaborating with some of the greatest producers on the planet. That might sound crazy, but it's like, if you know like the genre, if you know the world of electronic music, like the people that I'm working with, I just have so much respect for them. I admire them so much because they're the greatest. They might not be the most famous, but that doesn't matter. Their skill set, they're like some of the greatest producers on the planet. And that makes me excited just to be able to do that, So sending some moon love, the moon rocks, the moon boots. We did it. EMOTIONA Podcast. Until next time, peace.